How's everybody doing today? Good? You ready for this? Yes? How many of you are having your first baby? Ooh, that's a lot of power. I could tell you anything and you believe it, right? No? I'm Janice Burris, and this is prepared childbirth, not natural. Okay? Anytime you're delivered in a hospital setting, the minute they put an IV in your arm that has water in it, it's considered an invasive procedure. Doesn't even have to have medication in it. At that point, it's considered not natural. So prepared. My job is to prepare you on what to expect when the time comes. How do I know I'm in labor? What can I do to help my body labor better? What can my partner do to help me through it? Okay? A lot of the class is taught to the partners because moms, you know your brain isn't what it used to be before you became pregnant, right? You've lost things, you've forgotten things. It's not your fault. You guys got little arguments. It's called pregnancy brain, okay? But because of that, some women forget what they've learned in class when they go into labor. Their brain just kind of flatlines. So it's okay for you to forget, but your partners are not allowed to forget. Okay, so look at them, turn to each other and say, you're not allowed to forget. Because she's going to look to you to be her rock. Some women can tell you what they want or need in labor. Oh, my back hurts, rub my back. Or my mouth is dry, give me ice chips. Other women, you ask them if they need ice chips, they look at you like you have a third eyeball in your head. They don't know what an ice chip is. So if that's the case, then partners, you have to offer her things, okay? And it won't take long to figure that out. Once you figure that out, it's easy. This is not rocket science, okay? Very basic stuff. You know this person sitting next to you better than anybody else. You know what makes her happy. You know what pushes buttons. Don't push buttons in labor. Women are very strong, and they can do damage. But I can tell you, in the 20 years I've been doing this, I've never seen anyone kicked, beaten up, or bitten. But I have heard a lot of language, okay? So partners, don't take it personally if she calls you something you've never heard her say in her life. It's the pain talking, okay? So hopefully by the time we're finished with our time together today, you'll feel a little bit more confident in what your bodies were made to do naturally. You'll feel more comfortable in the process, and you'll know what to expect when the time comes. So in a lot of that, it alleviates your fears, and then you feel more comfortable going into the process of labor and birth. You're going to have things you're going to have to practice. You can't expect me to talk and have it all kick in when you go into labor. So you're going to have homework you're going to have to do. You're going to have to practice relaxation, and you're going to have to practice breathing. Relaxing is not an easy thing to do. We have very busy lives. We have to practice it. Okay? So you're going to have homework. And my goal for you is when that time comes, that morning, that evening, whenever you go into labor, you pick up your labor bag, you guys walk out the door. You know you've done everything to have a better labor and birth experience. More informed, more educational. And for me, I'm the type of person, the more I know, the better I am in a situation. I know what to expect either way. That way, it's not a surprise. I'm prepared for it. So that's what this is all about. This is a sagittal segment cut of what your body looked like prior to pregnancy, okay? Here's the uterus, and the uterus was the size of a pear before you became pregnant. It sat down here, and by the end of the pregnancy, it's grown 500 times. It's the size of a watermelon. It's grown huge, okay? Here's your bladder. All your internal organs are where they need to be, okay? But things change. This is where you are now. Look at what's going on. Look at how high that baby is underneath the breasts, putting pressure on your lungs, on your diaphragm, making it difficult for you to breathe. Here is the cervix. That's the area that has to thin and dilate to deliver your baby. Here is the uterus, okay? Bladder, vagina, rectum, okay? Now, the placenta is up here, and typically it's here, here, or here, all right? This is the filtering organ. Everything you eat, drink, and ingest, even through your nose, goes through this to your baby, through the umbilical cord, and then waste products go back out again. This is the maternal side, okay? Here, here, here. And then the fetal side is much more vascular. You can see the veins there. So that's why it's important to know about your environment, cleaning products, secondhand smoke, those types of things, because they're finding a lot of toxins in cord blood. Okay, now, this is where you are here. One of the first physical changes that will happen as you come closer to the end of your pregnancy is this baby will drop, it will engage. It settles down into the pelvis. And you'll know this for two very specific reasons. Number one, the belly will be lower. You'll have a gap between your breasts and your belly. You'll be able to breathe a little bit better, eat a little bit better. So I'll show you what it looks like here, the difference between the two. This is before, this is after. Look at the difference. There's a gap there. But there's always a trade-off in life, right? Now you can eat better and breathe better. Look at the bladder. It's gone. You'll be so desperate you won't even go anywhere unless you know where the bathrooms are before you go. And the hard part is you got your key in the front door, and you go and you're like, because you know there's a potty inside, and you run and you go, oh, this little teeny amount of urine, and you think, oh, I thought it was going to be a gallon. Nope, just a little bit. You wash your hands, you walk 3 feet down the hallway, you got to go back, and again, there's so much pressure. Look at that baby's head right there, okay? So here's the bladder now compressed, here's the vagina, here's the rectum. Now, this chart shows some other things that are going on. Here's the round ligaments. This is why you get that pain that you're talking about when you roll over. They're attached from here to keep the growing uterus into place. And this one, look at where this one's attached to, back here. So as the more weight the baby puts on, the more tendency to have a lower backache. So like I said, we're going to learn some things today that will help with this backache and help with that pain. Now with this round ligament pain, be careful, like when you're rolling out of bed, roll very slowly. Sometimes you'll be sitting and then get up and like, oh, you feel the sharp pain, just kind of take your time, breathe through it, and usually it alleviates within a few seconds. But you have to be careful with how you handle your body, okay? Now, this is the average size pelvis that your baby needs to maneuver to be born. And you look at this and you think, there's no way this is coming out of there. How does it fit? Well, one of the hormones you have is called relaxin. Normally, these bones stay stationary. And with that relaxin hormone, they now move and they now give. That's what helps a little woman sometimes birth a larger baby. And there's no way of knowing ahead of time if your baby's too large for you. We'll know that in the process of labor if, one, you either stop dilating, or number two, you become fully dilated but the baby just doesn't come down. Okay? But that's how, because these bones now shift and move. But that's also which gives you the heartburn. Because you have a sphincter muscle right here that stays closed. With that relaxin hormone, it now opens up and you get the reflex into your throat. Couple things. Don't lie down right after you eat. Eat smaller meals. You actually should all be eating every 2 to 3 hours something. Cheese, yogurt, fruit throughout your day, that type of thing. Don't lie down after you eat. Don't drink when you eat. And that's for anybody. We have digestive juices that help us digest our food. You eat a lot, you drink a lot, and I know for a lot of people, it's a habit. You have a fork in one hand and a cup in the other. You know, you're just doing that. So you actually should eat and then wait about 30 minutes and then drink. See if that helps. Sometimes milk will help, sometimes ice cream will help, sometimes a little bit of apple cider vinegar will help. Sometimes no matter what you do, you're still going to have it. But what you need to realize, like I said, it's all temporary. Okay? It'll be gone when you give birth to your baby. So there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Typically, hands and feet swell a little bit, and that's okay. But a warning sign with swelling would be if your face blows up, if your hands blow up, if you have blurred vision, spots in front of your eyes, if you've been having headaches. This is not typical, okay? If you have any of these symptoms, call your doctor right away because they're going to check you for preeclampsia, and we used to call that toxemia, okay? A little bit of swelling is normal, like I said. Sit down, put your feet up, increase your fluids, that type of thing. But if you have any of those symptoms, call your doctor and they can check it out for you. As the baby settles in and engages down into the pelvis, they don't move as often. They're larger, the space is smaller, but the movements feel bigger. Boom, boom, whoa. You're like, oh my gosh. So what we're looking for here is some type of movement in an 8-hour period. We want this baby moving periodically. They sleep like we sleep. When you're up and you're walking around, you're rocking them to sleep. What happens when you're ready to lay down or go to bed? Ooh, they wake up. Mom, you stop moving. Okay, so if you've been preoccupied and you're not sure, have I felt it move? Sit down and eat something. They get really happy when you eat. Oh, thanks, Mom, you know. And then if you're still not sure, call your doctor. They can do some very basic testing just to be careful. Okay? So sleeping, you should be sleeping on your left side or your right side. We don't want you flat on your back. Okay? If you tend to wake up on your back, don't panic. Just put a couple pillows there. That way, if you roll over, you won't be totally flat. Okay. Some exercises to get you ready for pregnancy or delivery and all that type of stuff, because, you know, people have the misconception that if you're in good physical shape, you'll have a faster, easier labor and birth. During pregnancy, we need to prepare ourselves for the birth, but what it comes down to is if you're in good physical shape, you'll have the stamina to withstand a longer labor. So we'd like you to be walking at least 30 minutes a day. If you can do more than that, that's fine. If because of work schedules or anything that you're involved in makes it difficult, anytime you get the opportunity, get up and walk 10, 15 minutes at a time, okay? Walking will never put you into labor. People have that misconception as well. It's hormonal, so you can walk 30 miles if you want. You're not going to go into labor unless you're ready. If it's comfortable for you to do this, to sit on the floor while you're watching TV or reading a book, maybe every few commercials, put the bottom of your feet together, put your hands pressed down just towards the floor, just enough to feel a stretch in your thighs. You don't need to shove them to the floor, but just enough, okay? That'll help stretch your thighs. If you're reading a book or a magazine, every couple pages, do the same thing for about 30 seconds and release. This will help stretch. If this is uncomfortable, don't do it, because I have something else for you, okay? So, from today on, I don't want any of the women to bend over to pick anything up, okay? That relaxin hormone that I mentioned earlier that helps your bones move and shift, if you bend down at this point in your pregnancy, you can easily damage your lower back. Many women have separated this here. It's called the pubic symphysis because that relaxin hormone, by drop kicking something across the floor. It doesn't have to be a big movement, but it can damage this. And you may know this if you see them at your doctor's office or in the hospitals because they're walking like this. And it may take quite a while after you give birth for that to heal. So from today on, I want everybody to squat to pick things up, okay? You need to pick something up, you're going to squat to pick it up off the floor. If you're in the kitchen, you're going to squat to open the doors. If you're at work and you need to get anything lower, you're going to squat to do this. Because we want to protect your body. But there's another method to my madness. They're going to check for pelvic stations while you're in labor. And what that refers to is where this baby's head is compared to the pelvic outlet. You're fully dilated, you're 10 centimeters. If they say the baby's at 0 station, that's right here. That's even with that pelvic outlet, and that's a good start. If you're plus anything, that's even better. They may say +1, +2, +3. If that baby's +4, you have very little pushing you have to do, okay? But the issue comes if you're -1. Okay, this is 0, this is minus. If you're fully dilated and that baby is minus, there's going to be a lot of work you're going to have to do, and they may need you to squat to open up the pelvis wider to bring the baby down. Because again, when you squat, this is what happens. Boom. Gives the baby more room to come down. Once the baby moves down to either 0 or even +1, then you can push in a regular position. Okay? But the issue is, if they need you to squat, you could be down in that position for 2-3 minutes at a time. It's not going to be comfortable. Okay? So we have to do some squatting now. All right, so go ahead, stand up. So moms, go ahead and stand in front of your partner. Support her in case she wobbles a little bit. Okay. So when you're ready, just kind of squat down. We're going to pretend we're going to pick up some socks. Okay? So feet a little bit wider apart, width apart, but what you want to make sure is your heels remain flat on the floor. If your heels come up, that means you have to open your legs a little bit wider. Okay? So when you're ready, squat right down. Pretend you're picking up some socks. Open those legs wider. One more time. Good. All right. So, partners, from today on, you're going to bust her on this. Anytime she bends over, squat. That's going to be part of your homework, to remind her she needs to squat. Have any of you heard of the pelvic tilt? No? Okay. Pelvic tilt will help now for lower back pain. It will help if you have fingers or toes stuck in your ribs and you're trying to work that baby down. Okay, it'll help with shortness of breath sometimes. Sometimes it'll help with heartburn. It's one of those hit or miss things. okay? But I'll do it, and then we'll practice it together, okay? So what happens is, with the pelvic tilt, you get on all fours, okay? What happens is instantly the weight of the baby comes off your back and it's pulled forward, so it dangles a little bit. Takes the pressure off the lower back. So you just sit there and you just breathe normal, just relax. Now partners, you come home from work or whatever, you find her in this position, you know what's going on. Her back is hurting, okay? Now, you can do this on the floor, you could do it on the bed. This will work now, this will work during labor, okay? Now, if this isn't enough, if this isn't take the pressure off, or if we need to rotate the baby, and I'll explain why in a minute, that's where the tilt part comes in. You're going to just tilt your pelvis towards your face towards your pelvis. It sounds a little bit silly, but it helps you to remember it's like you're saying hello to your crotch. Just a real easy move, just like this, like hello, just like that. Back and forth, gives the baby more room, nice and easy, helps to rotate, okay? So you can use this now or in labor, back hurts, fingers and toes, that type of thing, okay? So just take a nice deep breath in and exhale out, and let the baby just dangle just for a little bit, okay? And with this, you might find enough relief, but if not, that's where the tilt part comes in. So when you're ready, just kind of bring your pelvis towards your face towards your pelvis. You're just rocking nice and easy, like you're saying hello to your crotch. Just a little movement, not so much in your back, more in your pelvic area. So you'll do that now, if you need to, if your back is bothering you, or in labor. How many of you know what your Kegel is? Pelvic floor exercise. Okay. This is an area of the body that a lot of people don't even know it's there, but we need to exercise it because it tends to weaken during pregnancy. Okay. You have the vaginal opening and the rectum. It's a figure eight of muscles that surround that area. Right in the center where they all intersect, that's where the Kegel muscle is. They sometimes call it the hammock. Okay. So the easiest way to find this muscle is next day or two, go in, urinate, stop your flow of urine, midstream, boom, that's your Kegel muscle that you feel. Finish urinating. Try it that way only a couple times, because if you continue to do it on the toilet, you can get a urinary tract infection. So you're just going to do that to find out where it's located. Once you locate it, then you do 25 in the morning, 25 in the evening, but what we like is mega Kegels. And what that means is every time you hold it, you're going to squeeze a little bit longer than you did the time before. That's really going to build up that strength, okay? So you find it by urinating and stopping the flow of urine midstream, let it go, and then it's all internal. You can do it standing or sitting. No one's going to know you're doing it unless you're concentrating really hard. Like, some women use, maybe if they're driving at a red light, okay, this is my signal, I got a red light, I'm going to do my Kegels. They're sitting in their car and they're just, no one's going to look over and go, oh, she's doing her Kegels, you know. But the whole idea is don't quit when you give birth. And a lot of women are really good at this during their pregnancy, but they give birth and they think they're done. No, we want you to continue to work in your Kegel muscle until you can't remember. Because the issue is, from carrying babies, that area tends to weaken, and then we end up, as we're older, with urinary incontinence, okay? So we want to make sure you're going to work that throughout until you can't remember to work it anymore. Signs and symptoms of labor. First of all, we're going to break down labor. There's actually 4 stages of labor. First stage is labor. Second stage is pushing and birth of your baby. Third stage is deliver the placenta. And then fourth stage is postpartum, that first couple hours after you give birth. This chart shows how it really breaks down. This is labor here, and this is pushing. Early, active, and transition. Now look at her face. You can see labor progressing by the change of look on her face. Now, early phase of labor, that's the easiest part of labor. It's the longest part of labor. Okay? If you have the opportunity to speak to your mothers about their labor and birth experiences, ask them some questions about their first birth, because that's the one you want to focus on, because there is correlations with grandmothers, mothers, and daughters compared to their birthing outcomes. Okay? Now, if you don't like the answers you get, I was in labor for 52 hours, then you ask more questions. Did you get up and walk around, or did you labor in bed? Okay? Did you go into labor spontaneously or was it induced? Because that does make a difference as well. And then what you learn in class and you apply it will make a difference on your labor and birth experience too. Okay? But with early phase of labor, the contractions are only about 30 seconds each. They're very mild for most people. Most women can walk and talk through these contractions. Okay? Longest part of labor, but the easiest part of labor. A bulk of your labor will be here. Okay? Now, labor progresses. Active phase of labor, this is the middle part of labor, and this is where I always say she's cooking with gas. There's no turning back, you know. Okay? And you see the intensity on her face. So here the contraction is about 30 seconds each. Now they've gone to 60 seconds each, so they've doubled. Okay? And then you have transition, most intense part of labor, but the fastest part. But because it is so intense, some women have a difficult time here. And it's not because the contractions do not continue to get harder and harder. What happens is you get to a certain point in your labor, they level out, but they get longer, and the break gets shorter. Most women describe transition as feeling like the contractions are back to back. Okay? So here you have a break, here you have a break, but here it gets to the point where it feels like they're back to back. You will all want an epidural here. But if you've gotten this far, you are this close to giving birth, and she needs to be reminded of that. Okay? You are this close. So we're going to break it down, what's going on with your body, what can partner do to help you through it, some labor positions, things that help the whole process go a little bit smoother. Okay? What signs of labor are you aware of? What have you heard of so far?
Just water coming out.
Just all over the place.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, water breaking. Only 10% of all women, their water breaks spontaneously. Most women, their water needs to be broken to give birth. Okay? So you're not going to wait at home for your water to break because it may never not. Okay? The first time my water broke, I thought I was just peeing my pants. Because all the books made it sound like if your water broke, it would just hit the floor, like you just kind of talked about. But mine just kind of went, it just trickled. I was sitting on the couch watching the World Series, and I felt this, and I thought, you're too old to be peeing your pants. So I got up, changed my underwear, sat back down, watched a little bit more TV. Happened again. Oh, well. Got up, changed my underwear, sat back down, watched a little bit more TV. I do this till I have no underwear left, and then I finally called my doctor. So, you know, it may be a trickle, it may be a gush, but it may not break at all. All right. If it does break, you need to be in the hospital because there's always a chance of infection. Okay? Anything else?
What about the mucus plug?
What have you heard about it?
Well, I've just heard it, a friend just actually talked about it a couple days ago, that she was in the restroom and she went to wipe and then she saw this like gunky, bloody kind of substance come out and she started to freak out about it. And so she called a friend. She's like, oh, that's your mucus plug, so you'll be having your baby soon. So I just I assume that's part of labor and, what about it?
Okay. Now, here you have the uterus. Here's the cervix, which is the neck of the uterus. This is the area that has to thin and dilate to deliver your baby. Okay, the mucus plug is up in there. It seals everything off. Okay, coming closer to your due date, your doctors will begin to do internal exams to find cervical change. Okay, and one of the things that happens when this cervix starts to soften, it will let that mucus go. Now, prior to pregnancy, if you ever were to feel your cervix, which most of us have not, it feels like the tip of your nose. When you're pregnant, it feels like your earlobe. When you're ready to go into labor, it gets like your lips. It gets soft and spongy. Okay, so that mucus is up in there. It seals it off. When it starts to soften, it can let that mucus go. You may see it, you may not. But just like she described, you go in the bathroom some morning, some evening, you do your business and you wipe, you're like, oh, look, what is that? That's what it is, okay? Thick, just as you described it, thick, goopy, gloppy with some blood in there. When it comes down to something disgusting comes out, that's what it is. Don't call your doctor, they don't care, okay? Your cervix is starting to soften, it lets that mucus go, your body's getting ready for labor. It can be, you can go to labor anytime from that day to a couple weeks. Your body's getting ready, okay? So when your caregiver begins to do internal exams, like I said, they're going to feel for cervical change, and they're going to check for effacement and dilation. Effacement is the thinning, dilation is the opening. And it's typical for a lot of women to already be dilated before they go into labor. Okay, if you are, do the happy dance. You have a jump start, and you can still have sex. You can still sit in a tub. You can still swim. The only time that would change is if your water does break. Okay? So, effacement is the thinning, and dilation is the opening. Your cervix has to efface or thin out 100%, and has to dilate to 10 centimeters. And that's what this is right here. That's where your cervix has to get for you to begin pushing and giving birth to your baby. When the cervix gets to this point on the baby's head, that's considered 10 centimeters. That's when you begin to push. All right? So, the uterus is made of a lot of muscle layers, over the top this way and around this way. So when you have a contraction, those muscle layers come together, they flex and do this, like flex in a muscle, but flex from the top down, and the cervix opens from the bottom. Okay? So, one way to look at effacement and dilation, this is what's going on with the cervix. It's thinning and dilating. Okay? Thinning and dilating. It's pulling away from the baby's head. Another way to look at this, if you've ever worn a turtleneck, and you go to put the turtleneck on, and you have the neck here, that's a thick cervix. Hey, you start to pull your head through, hey, I'm dilating. But it's this way, okay? You ever have a lifesaver, you put it on the tip of your tongue and you suck on it, it gets thin from the inside out? It's the same thing, okay? So you come into your caregiver, they start to do those internal exams, they may find dilation, they may not. But this is hormonal. And what can happen is a couple different scenarios. A woman comes in and they check her cervix. Oh, you're 2 centimeters dilate. You're going to have this baby any day. She gets excited. She goes home. She packs her bags. She calls everybody. And she's still sitting there 2 weeks later. People are calling, have you had the baby yet? No. She don't want to even answer the phone anymore because she's so upset. Or that other woman that's tired of being pregnant. She's done. She goes into her caregiver. And he says, oh, no, it's going to be another couple weeks. And she goes home in tears. Like, I don't want to be pregnant anymore. And he says it's going to be another couple weeks. And she's like, oh. And then she gives birth 3 days later. That's how quick it can change because it is hormonal. So whatever they find here is okay. Just be excited one way or the other. If you are dilated, yay. If you're not, that's okay too. Okay. So going back to if your water breaks. Okay, there's 4 things you need to remember because they're going to ask you these things when you come into the hospital if your water's broken, all right? And forgive me, I use the acronym TACO, so you're never going to think of tacos the same way ever again, but it helps you to remember. The T stands for time. What time did your water break? Because most caregivers will want you delivered within 24 hours. If you're not exactly sure, give them an estimate, okay? The A is the amount. Was it a trickle or was it a gush? Did it just kind of run down your leg or did it hit the floor? The C stands for color, and the color should be clear, or it's okay if it looks milky or whitish in tone because babies are covered with a coating called Vernex, and sometimes that comes out in the water. The colors we don't want to see is green or yellow because that means there's meconium in the water and the baby's had a bowel movement, okay? And that's an issue with pushing. We don't want the baby to ingest that in. And then O stands for odor. It has an odor all its own, but it's not a strong odor. If it is strong or smelly, that can mean infection. So the time, the amount, the color, and the odor. If it is broken, we don't want you in a tub, and we don't want you having intercourse, okay? Just because there's always a chance of infection. Now, mucus plug is an indication of cervical change, but there's another situation called, in here when the cervix begins to change, it's called bloody show. And bloody show is indicative of labor because what happens is you have these little capillaries that break down and a little bit of blood here and there. You might see it in the toilet. You might, when you wipe, it's on your tissue, that type of thing. That's very normal. You are in labor, okay? And that increases a little bit throughout the process of labor. If you're in labor and we don't see a little bit of increase of that bloody show, then that tells us you're not really dilating. So we're going to look for that. Contractions. Did you know there's 3 types of contractions? One is Braxton Hicks. Those are called practice contractions. They're getting your body ready for labor. And then there's false labor and there's true labor. Okay? When your uterus contracts, like I mentioned, all those muscle layers come together. It pushes down. The cervix opens up from the bottom. Okay? But when you have that contraction, your belly kind of feels like a basketball that someone's pumping air into it. Oh, it gets really tight. And then it relaxes again. I always thought it was the baby going, because that's what it felt like, a big stretch, and then a release, okay? When you experience that, take 2 fingers, push in right above your belly button. Now, if it's softer here, but firmer around the sides, it's a Braxton Hicks. Because remember, I mentioned the uterus contracts from the top down. Okay. If you push in the top of your belly, right above your belly button, and it feels hard like your forehead, it's a contraction. Okay. And typically with Braxton Hicks, you get up and walk, they stop. You drink some water, they stop. Any kind of change usually will make those end. But with contractions, if they are either false labor or true labor, no matter what you're doing, they're not going to stop. But do you know the difference between false labor and true labor contractions? False labor contractions can come any time of day, just sporadic throughout the day, the night. You might have one at 2 o'clock and one at 5 o'clock, one at 3:30 in the morning, one at 4 o'clock, just all over the place. And you can do that for a week or two before you go into real labor. Okay? The minute they become regular to where there's a pattern, that's when it's considered labor beginning. Okay? And the goal is we want to make sure the contractions get longer and the break gets shorter. That tells you it's real labor. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to time them for about 2 hours, then put the paper away. Okay? And the way you time your contractions is the interval, or how far apart they are, is from beginning to beginning. Start time to start time. And then you're going to time how long they are. So she says, oh, I'm having a contraction. So partners, you write down maybe 6 o'clock on your piece of paper. And then you need to time the length. Okay? It's over. How long was that? Oh, about 30 seconds. You write 30 seconds next to it. Some time goes by. Oh, I'm having another one. Okay, what time is it? 6:15. How long? 30 seconds. And you do that for a couple hours. Okay, it gives you a baseline. Put the paper away. Ignore them. Because I will guarantee if it's real labor, it's going to get your attention somewhere along the way. Something will change. All right. Now, jumping way ahead. Now it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and the contraction is now 60 seconds long, 3 to 5 minutes apart. They're lasting 60 seconds, and the break is now gone to 3 to 5 minutes. So in early labor, when labor begins, that type of thing, they're only about 30 seconds each, but you can have 5 to 30 minutes in between a contraction. As labor progresses, the contraction gets longer. So about that point, she says, 2 o'clock, I'm having a contraction. Put 2 o'clock, how long? 60 seconds. Another one, 2:05, 60 seconds. 2:10, 60 seconds. That tells you it's real labor. Because before, okay, they were sporadic, they were all over the place. They were happening 15 minutes apart, lasting 30 seconds each. Now they're 3 to 5 minutes apart, lasting 60 seconds each. So that tells you start time to start time. Now, with first-time moms, we use the 4-1-1 rule. When to go to the hospital, when contractions are 4 minutes apart, lasting 1 minute each for 1 hour or longer. That's a good time to go. Okay? Or if your water breaks, anytime you go. You don't wait around. Okay? Collect your things. You don't have to panic, but collect your things, make your way to the hospital. The whole goal is to stay home as long as you feel comfortable being there. Okay? Now, second-time moms, we use a 10-minute rule because things can start to happen really quickly. If you wait till 4 minutes, forget it. You may be delivering at home. As a typical first-time mom, their labor is 14 hours. Okay? So, most of the time, almost you can guarantee your second labor be cut in half as the first one. So that's why we use the 10-minute rule. Okay. So Braxton Hicks are practice contractions, getting your body ready for labor. False labor contractions are working your way into labor, and then true labor contractions. And if you're not sure, is this what I'm feeling? Be assessed. Go to the hospital and have an assessment done. Okay? So we have contractions, mucus plug, bloody show. Okay, nesting urge is one of those bizarre things. She gets this burst of energy and she wants to clean everything. And maybe you get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, she's mopping the kitchen floor, or she wants to mow the lawn, or you have your baby shower and you wash everything, and you fold it all nice and neat, and you put it and you label all the drawers. It's like a squirrel collecting nuts for the winter. She's getting ready for the birth. She may not realize it, but it's coming. Some women feel it, some do not. Okay. And then pelvic pressure, like the baby's pushing down, you have pressure now, you're going to have a lot more pressure. Okay, so it increases. And then usually as you come closer to due date, your weight levels off, or you actually begin to lose weight, and that indicates you're ready to go into labor when you start to lose a little bit of weight. So all these things leading up to that point. So we're going to break labor down, okay? What's going on with your body? What can your partner do to help you through it? Okay, so early labor. Easiest part of labor, longest part of labor. Most women don't even need to breathe here. Their contractions are about 30 seconds each. On an average here, it says lasting 12 hours or more. It could be 2 hours, it could be 5, it could be 15. We don't know. The way you know, partners, she's still in early labor, is her contractions about 30 seconds each, and she can walk and talk through them. Okay? So my suggestion to you is time the contractions for a couple hours and then put the paper away. Like I mentioned earlier, if it is real labor, it will get your attention. All right? So, you know, I am in labor. What should I be doing? First of all, eat lightly. Because right now your digestion is cut in half. When you go into labor, it pretty much stalls. Okay, so what are you going to eat when you're in labor at the hospital? What do they give you? Do you know? Ice chips. You might get a popsicle. You might get an icy cup or, you know, Jell-O. Woohoo! And the reason being is, you know, in a hospital setting, in the back of their head, they're saying, you know, this labor may end in a cesarean birth, and we cannot have food in your stomach. Okay? So when you're at home and you're laboring at home, you're going to eat lightly. 2 foods I suggest you stay away from would be cheese and then foods with an acid base, like tomato sauce, orange juice, salsa, that type of thing. So what do you think you will be eating? Whatever sounds good, okay? But just don't eat a lot of it. Eat a little bit, wait a few hours, eat a little bit more. Stay well hydrated. Gatorade, Powerade, vitamin water, juice, tea, ginger ale, that type of thing, but little sips. Don't guzzle anything because it can come back up, okay? I had a woman that called me and she says, I'm in labor. I said, have you eaten? She says, no. Should I? Yes, eat something light. What does she do? She goes to a restaurant and has this mega burrito. Don't do that to yourself and the other people in the room, okay? It's not fun. So eat whatever sounds good, just little bits, okay? So in early labor, the contractions are only about 30 seconds each, anywhere from 5 to 30 minutes apart, and on an average 8 to 12 hours. Okay? Could be more, could be less. Now the first time mom, it takes you the longest to dilate to 5 centimeters. Once you dilate to 5 centimeters, the dilation speeds up. Labor gets faster. Okay? Once the cervix is thinned out all the way, 100%, the dilation speeds up. So there's a lot of different factors there. Okay? So in early labor, like I said, she's in a pretty good mood. The contractions are very mild, about 30 seconds each. So you eat lightly. If it's during the day, do something fun. Go shopping. You know, go to the movies, rent some movies. You want to preoccupy yourself because this is a long phase of labor. The last thing you want to do is be sitting there going, I'm in labor. But it doesn't hurt. What's the big deal? You know, that type. It will drive you crazy. So you want to stay preoccupied. Go for walks. Walk around your neighborhood. Go to the mall. That type of thing. Okay? And people say, well, what if I'm in a store and my water breaks? They'll clean it up. It's not that big a deal. Okay? If it's at nighttime, try to sleep. Because, and I know that sounds bizarre, but these contractions are very mild. And some women can sleep through them. But it's usually your adrenaline that keeps you awake. Okay, because you're nervous. Maybe you're at home with a family member or friend and your partner's at work. And people say, well, when do I call them to come home? Well, partners, for her, if it's an emotional thing, if she needs you there for emotional support, you come whenever she says, please come home. Okay? Now, if she's comfortable with someone being at home with her, and maybe you have a 2-hour commute, depending on what freeway you're on, and it takes you 2 hours to get home, if her contractions are 10 to 15 minutes apart, you have plenty of time to get to her. Okay? Don't rush, don't get a ticket, don't get yourself hurt. They drop down to 10 minutes apart, make your way home, but as a warning, you could still be sitting with her there 8 hours later before you even go to the hospital. Because that's the hardest part about this whole thing. We don't know when we're going to go into labor, and we don't know how long it's going to last. And I think that's what freaks people out the most. If there were a standard to make it easy, you come into the hospital at 10, you have your baby by 2. Mystery's gone. But it doesn't work that way. Everybody's different. So, basically, eat lightly, stay busy, do something fun if it's during the day. If it's at nighttime, try to rest. Now, emotionally, how do you think you guys are going to be at this point? Happy, sad, freaked out, anxious, relieved? Woo, we're having a baby. Oh, we're having a baby. crud. You know, it's like that type of woo, because most people just want to survive labor and birth, but then you do realize they make you take the baby home. What do you do with it the next 20 years? This is a day or two out of your life. It's the next 20 years or so that can be scary. So whatever you're experiencing is going to be normal. If you're, if you're nervous, if you're frightened, that's okay. Laughing and crying are both really good ways to rid your body of tension. So don't judge each other. If you're partners, if you're nervous, tell her it's okay. But you're going to get her through. Moms, it's okay to be nervous too, because it's an emotional roller coaster at this point. So basically here, you eat lightly, time your contractions for a couple hours, put the paper away, and then just either do something fun or take a nap. Take it easy. You don't want to do too much in early labor because you need to reserve your energy for later. What comes to your head when I say the word contraction?
Sharp pains.
Sharp pains?
Yeah, kind of. I would associate that with a contraction, but I wouldn't really know.
Okay.
An emotional roller coaster.
Emotional roller coaster.
Like a really intense period cramp.
All of the above, okay? And that's the unusual thing about contractions as well, because if you ask 10 women what they feel like, you will get 10 different answers. You have two groups of women, that one that says, I cannot stand pain, and the other one that says, yeah, it hurt, but it wasn't that big a deal. Why is that the reason? It's because it has a lot to do with perception going into labor. What is your mindset going into labor? Okay, and the whole idea is to alleviate a lot of your fears at this point. That way you know what's normal, what's expected, and a lot of times what happens is that decreases a lot of your discomfort. Okay? Because one of the things you need to realize is in labor, every time you tense muscle groups, it increases your pain and slows labor down. No one says, give me a longer labor. Hopefully we want to reduce your discomfort and help your body labor better. So your partner's going to be there to say, relax your shoulders, don't grit your teeth, that type of thing to help reduce your discomfort. Okay. With contractions, they can start in your back and work towards your front, start in your front, work towards your back, start in your front, go down your thighs. And they can feel like intense period cramps. They can just be a wave that kind of comes and goes. Some women don't feel much at all. And I know that sounds bizarre because we always hear about, why is it so painful? Okay. For me, I just felt it in my cervical area. And it's weird because when I had a contraction, it felt like someone was doing this to my cervix, which is odd because what is it doing? It's dilating. So everybody experiences contractions differently. So labor progresses and the contractions increase. But what I want you to have a different perception on what contractions are, because you need to be excited about those contractions. And don't think, oh, she just went over the edge. No, because think about it. You're going to be concerned about that one contraction. So moms, your job at that point is to breathe through it. It's gone. It's never coming back. You sit back. You have a break. The next contraction comes. Be excited. Ooh, here comes Joey. You breathe through it. It's gone. It's never coming back. You take a break. You have a break in between these contractions. And the best thing about the contractions, and this is why I want you to embrace them and be excited, is because each contraction brings you closer to the birth. You're one step closer to holding this baby in your arms. You're one step closer to being finished. So you take them one at a time. You don't say, what's going to happen 3 hours from now? Because you may be finished, you may not be finished. Okay? So we're just going to take them one at a time. And your job is to relax. All right. Active labor, things change quite a bit. Look at her face. Here she's dilating from 0 to 3 centimeters. You get into active phase of labor. She's now dilating from 4 to 7. Big change. Contraction has now doubled. It was 30, now it's 60 seconds long. You had 5 to 30 minutes apart in between in early labor. Now they're 3 to 5 minutes apart. So the workload is increasing. She can become less talkative, quieter, preoccupied with her contractions, which means she now has to breathe. She doesn't have a choice. Maybe she was laboring in the living room or the bedroom or something, and she got up to get a drink of water, and she comes into wherever it is she's laboring. If she does something like this, she's now headed into active phase of labor. Okay, I'm all right. And then she goes to sit down. What happened was she started to walk in, and that contraction began. It was like, hello, I got to hold on. Active phase of labor, they usually have to hold on to something, and they have to breathe. And as long as she's breathing fine, you leave her alone. So they rock a little bit, and they may wiggle. And if you try to talk to her, shut up. Just let her breathe through it, okay? Contraction's over. Then you discuss it with her. Okay, what's going on? Oh, that was longer or stronger, whatever her answer is, okay? Now, time the contractions for about another hour. Look at both sheets of paper. You're going to see a big difference as compared to first time and second time. And like I said, as long as she's breathing fine, you leave her alone. She does something like this, you have to step in. Oh, no, this hurts. I can't do this. You gotta help. You gotta step in and you gotta help her. Because if she's crying, she's not what? Breathing. Okay? So, if she's leaning over an object, be it kitchen counter, bar stool, whatever it is, partners, you got to get her attention. So that means eye to eye. So you may have to come from underneath and look up at her, okay? Say, okay, look at me, come on, look at, and she may argue. No, come on, look at me, come on. Take a deep breath in. Good, all the way down. Blow it out. One more time in. Good, all the way down. Blow it out. You don't say, breathe, you gotta breathe. She doesn't know what that means, okay? So, you help her through it, and then you discuss it. I know you're working harder, but I'm gonna help you. It's gonna be fine, okay? Take it from there. She knows this is normal. Now, partners, you need to realize that there is gonna be a certain amount of noise in labor, but there's positive and there's negative. Some women don't actually breathe, they hum or they moan. So she might, oh, and that's okay, as long as it's a deep noise, because deep noise opens up. We don't want, because if it's high pitched, she's going to tense up. What happens to your body physically when you're afraid? What do? Tense up, okay? And we need to go, because again, every time you tense up in labor, it increases your pain, slows labor down. So we need her to relax, to reduce her discomfort, and help her body labor better. Okay? So she needs to avoid her bladder. Needs to be empty because you're taking in fluids, okay? And with all that pressure, she may not even know she needs to go to the bathroom. So partners, you remind her, okay, it's been about an hour and a half, you need to go. Now, if she goes into the bathroom and she doesn't come out, check on her, okay? You probably open the door and she's probably, oh. You okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Because sitting on the toilet feels really good in labor. We're going to talk about some really unusual places to labor, and the toilet is one of them, okay? So, in this position, the pelvis is open wider, gives the baby more room to come down, takes the pressure off the lower back. So if she wants to sit on the toilet for a while, you come in, bring a chair, sit on the floor, you guys are going to camp out in the bathroom, okay? Good place to labor. She can sit there as long as she feels comfortable, and then maybe at this point she decides, nope, I want to do something else. So you go on and you suggest something else. And we'll talk more about that when we talk about labor positions, okay? The other two really good places to labor in the bathroom is the shower and the bathtub. We call the bathtub the midwife epidural. You get in the tub, nice warm water, dim the lights, light some candles, play some music. You're going to set the mood to dilate, okay? Because it relaxes your muscles. You feel really good in water. Now, if you've been soaking in the tub for a while, you get out, you dry yourself off, and you notice that you're trickling. Now, obviously, your water has broken in the tub. Get yourself together, make your way to the hospital, and then let your caregiver know that my water broke while I was in the tub. And they'll just watch you for infection, okay? The other place is the shower. Now, if you have a shower with a handheld shower head, and you have that little seat in your shower, if she's sitting there like this, Aim it at her belly during the contractions. Contraction ends, hose her off so she doesn't catch chill. If you have, or she decides she wants to stand up in the shower, maybe she's leaning against the wall like this, okay? Aim it right at her lower back during the contraction, decreases the senses to the brain, decreases her discomfort, helps her labor better, and then when the contraction's over, you hose her off so she doesn't catch chill, okay? So if you think when you get to the hospital you may want to use the tub or whatever, she'll be in the tub by herself, but if she's in the shower, partners, you might want to bring a bathing suit or something because, the nurse will be in and out. Now, if you want to get in there with her naked, they're not going to care, but you may be seen, so that's up to you. Doesn't matter. But at home, toilet, tub, and shower, really good places to labor. Okay? So make sure she empties her bladder, alternate rest with activity, change positions often, and then rupture of membranes, it may break, it may not. Again, very small chance, but if it does, you'll be aware of it. So partners, your job is to see to her physical and emotional needs when the contraction ends, okay? Never talk to her during a contraction unless you're helping her to breathe, because it can be very distracting. Same thing, if you have family members or friends, they're either home or at the hospital, tell them, please don't talk. It can be very distracting. So when the contraction ends, I look at this time, 3 to 5 minutes, as a little mini NASCAR pit stop. You have only so much time before she goes around another lap, okay? So then you're going to ask her, okay, would you like some chapstick, or do you need some water? Okay, do you want me to rub your back? That's when you communicate with her. Contraction begins, let her breathe through it. Contraction ends. Now, if she's one of those women that doesn't know what they need or want, that makes it more difficult. So you have to offer her things, okay? You got to remember, okay, it's been a few contractions. Maybe her mouth is dry. Maybe she needs some ice chips. Or maybe she's been sitting for a while. Would you like to take a walk? That type of thing. Okay. That's when you have that time to communicate. So when the contraction ends, not during. Now, again, women labor differently. You can have women that sit there, they kind of go into their own little world during their contraction. Some women labor with their eyes open, some labor with their eyes closed. Now, some women will use a focal point, and that is an object or a picture that she can stare at to put her energy into. Partners, if you see her do this, she's found a focal point. She's got a fixed stare on something. If she does that, don't jump in front of her. She's using that object to put her energy into. It can be a number on a clock, crack in the ceiling, dust on the carpet. It may be you with her eye to eye. So some women will need that to help them focus their energy into to get them through their contractions. And they may do what is called effleurage, which is fingertip massage. So contraction begins, she becomes very internal. Okay, my lips are dry. Okay. Just sit back and relax. Contraction begins again. Into her own little world. Some women want you to hold their hand. Some women need both hands being held and someone helping them to breathe. And then some women don't want you to touch them. Don't you dare come near me. But you're not allowed to leave the room either. Okay? So that means you sit right there. Partners, kind of wait for her to go through the contraction. Contraction ends. You come over to her. You ask her what she needs. You sit back down when the contraction begins again. And I know that's difficult being a partner because you want to hold, you want to touch, you want to help her. But if you keep coming at her and she doesn't want you to, what's going to happen? She's going to tense up. She's going to get ticked. Here's another clue. If you walk towards her and she goes, oh, that means don't come any closer. You back up like it's a rattlesnake. Just like wait for the contraction to end. I walked into a room with a woman and I walked towards her and she went like this. And her husband was back here and I went, we can't touch her. So I waited for the contraction to end and then I asked her some questions. And the funny thing is she kept answering me with whispers. She just kept whispering. And I thought, I wonder if she has laryngitis. I don't know, because she just kept whispering. But that's the way she dealt with her labor. Because about an hour after that, she had an epidural. Her voice came back. So she dealt with it. Don't touch me. And she whispered. So you just never know. So you got to kind of feel the room. okay? So also, partners, what you have to do is you have to watch her from head to toe, because women practice what we call rhythm and rituals. She may do the same behavior over and over again, and we have to look for areas of tension. And typical areas are the hands, the face, the shoulders, and the feet, okay? So maybe she's sitting on a bed or a couch, and she's nice and relaxed, and she has a blanket over her, and the contraction begins, and she's, all of a sudden you notice that there's a tent, because there's so much tension there. You tell her, relax your feet. Good. If they stay up, don't tickle them, okay? Just kind of rub them. That reminds her to drop them down. Hands, whatever she's sitting on, blankets, cushions, pillows, they have a tendency to grip. And we don't want her to grip because that increases her pain. So you don't have to say anything if she's, in that sense where she allows you to touch her. Pick up the hand, bring it towards you, and stretch the fingers out. Rub the top of her hand with her breathing rhythm. If it's a slow rhythm, you rub slowly, okay? So be like, contraction ends, you set it down. Now the fun thing about this is after you do that a few times, she'll stop gripping and she'll want you to hold her hand, okay? Same thing with her breathing rhythm with her back. If you're rubbing her back, if she's breathing slowly, you want to do this. You don't want to be going like this, okay? It's with her rhythm. Shoulders. Now, she can be sitting nice and relaxed, maybe on the birth ball or a chair or the toilet, but contraction begins and all of a sudden you say relax your shoulders. Good. If they stay up, just take her hands down in her lap, boom, and they drop. Now this will sound bizarre, but it's true. There's a direct correlation with here and here. If her face is relaxed and she's breathing, she's going to dilate. If it's tense, what's happening? So you say, relax your face. Good. If it stays tense, take your fingertips on her forehead and do this down her face to relax her face and drop her jaw. Boom. Okay. So you watch her from head to toe. Contraction ends. That's when you offer her ice chips, chapstick, anything physical that she may need. Suggest she change positions. Okay? And moms, your whole job is to sit back, relax, and breathe. So partners, offer ice chips, back rub, stroke, massage, counter pressure, hot packs, cold packs, because if she's having back pain, her contractions are she's feeling them in her back. And we're going to go over a little bit more about that in a little while, okay? Think about it. Those of you that are already having trouble sleeping now, okay, it's going to increase. Baby's going to be putting on a lot of weight from now until you deliver. So the issue is when you're laboring in bed, you got the pressure of the baby on your joints, your ligaments, your tendons. What happens is when you're lying down in labor, it increases your pain and it slows labor down. So we want you in an upright position. Walking, standing, moving, rocking chair, anytime you're in an upright position, you've got gravity helping to bring the baby down, putting pressure on the cervix. It helps you to dilate, okay? So there may be a point when you want to lie down in labor, and that's okay. We just prefer you don't crawl into bed with the first contraction and stay there, because it's going to make it really, really uncomfortable, okay? So changing positions often. Partners, let's say she has been lying down for a while, and you notice it's been about an hour and a half, and you say, okay, why don't you sit in the rocking chair? And she looks at you and she says, why? You say, because by changing positions, it's going to help your labor to progress. And then if she says, I don't want to, just leave her alone. Okay? Now, when it comes to positions, there is not going to be any position that will be comfortable, but some will feel better than others to you. And if you've been sitting in bed for a while or lying down and she starts to really complain, just by sometimes getting her up and standing against a table or against a wall, by shifting her body weight will make all the difference in the world, okay? So we're going to go over some positions that will work for you in labor. This is the pelvic tilt position we did earlier, and we're going to add some to that, okay? Let me have you guys go ahead and stand up and come out this way. What we're going to do right now is nicknamed baby dancing, okay? So come over this way. So stand like this, and like this. Okay, bring her in nice and close to you. No, face to face. face to face, nice and close. And you're going to plant your feet, partner. You're going to plant your feet. Because what you're going to do, Mom, is you're going to put your arms around her neck. Bring her nice and close. Hug her body. Okay, put your head down on her shoulder. And then what you're going to do is slowly you're going to bend the knee, both in the same direction. Bend the knee, bend the knee. And you're going to hold her body weight. Okay? Because if she's holding anything up, she's going to tense up. All right? So you're going to think of your body being a rag doll anytime you're in a position. So she leans on you, and that doesn't look like much, but when you bend your knee, it opens up that hip flexor, gives the baby more room to come down. So you're shimmying the baby down, okay? Play some music. And we talk a lot about relaxation music. That's music you like to listen to. It doesn't have to be elevator stuff, okay? All right, contraction ends, and what you're going to do, go ahead and sit down in this chair for a second. Go ahead and sit down. Now, that's your time to communicate with her. Now, this can also be done up against a wall if your partner needs a break, okay? And it can also be done with a birth ball, and I'll show you how to do that a little bit later, okay? All right, thank you. Okay, so you would stand over here on the side. You're going to put that on the floor for your knees, and what you're going to do is you're going to kneel on the pillows, and you're going to come forward, put your face down on the pillow, drop your arms to the sides. So bring your rear end up. Yeah, put some gap between the breast, the chair, and your belly. But come a little bit forward. There you go. Turn your head to the side. Okay. Now this would be a good position anytime. All right. This would take pressure off the lower back if she's having back discomfort. And yeah, it does really feel good. Now she may want direct pressure at this point. If she's experiencing back pain, that means the baby's in the improper position. It's sunny side up. Have you ever heard of a woman having back labor? Well, when we're in labor and we're lying on her back, we want the baby facing her back. If a woman's having back labor, it's sunny side up. And what happens is she feels the contractions in her back, and she's going to want direct pressure. So this would be a good position to take the baby off her back. So she would want you to push right here so you can make a fist and lean into it. And she can tell you higher or lower. But the problem with this is your wrist strength is going to die in about 5 to 10 minutes. So we always talk about putting a tennis ball in a labor bag, okay? This is my favorite labor tool. 3 tennis balls and a tube sock, which are not allowed to use it as a weapon, okay? But go ahead and take it, and you can put it this direction here, up and down, a little bit lower, right there, and you would push in and rotate, little circles, or the other direction, this way. Same thing, push in, little circles. And that'll take the pressure off her back, help it to feel better. Also, can also be used for massage. Take it, and I'll show you, like this.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
Try that. You tickled. Start just right here, just use it in that segment. Just roll up and roll back. And then the other side. And then you can use that up and down the back as well. So something very inexpensive, very basic to make, may really help her and you. Okay, sit in the chair, and then with your rear end on the edge of the chair. Okay, legs open. You're going to kneel on the floor between her legs. Okay, come in nice and close. All right, now you put your head down on her shoulder. And then you can hug her if you want, and then you would rock from side to side. This position can be done on a chair, a toilet, a birth ball. Again, pelvis is open wider, gives the baby more room to come down. And if your arms are longer, you can rub her lower back. Okay, if they're not, that's okay too. And then once the contraction's over, you kind of scoot back on the chair, and then what are you going to offer her? What if she doesn't know? There you go. And here's a clue: don't shovel them in like a snow cone. Okay, one scoop about every couple of contractions is good. All right. Okay. Thank you. All right. I'm going to put one pillow here. Put one pillow like this. Okay. You're going to put your head down. Face to the side. Drop your arms down. Okay. Yeah, you're going to stand behind her. Okay. All right. Now this is a little mini version of a massage technique. You can add anything you want, but I'm just going to go through it really quickly. But to do it in the real world, 2 to 3 minutes per face, okay? So nice big hands. You're going to do nice big circles on her shoulder blades. Nice and firm. And she can tell you firmer or lighter. Just leave it like that. Okay? So you would do this for about 2-3 minutes. And then you swirl the fingertips. Take your fingertips and swirl them on her back. Now, if they're ticklish, you can avoid some of these things that may, because she's not going to relax if she's ticklish, okay? So that'd be a couple minutes there. Now, take your fingertips up here, and you're going to tap, 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 tap down the back, really nice and light, like raindrops. And then when you get to the base of the spine, stop there, come back to the top, and then work your way down. Okay. 2-3 minutes of that. Then, now you're going to start at the base of the spine, one thumb on each side of the spinal column. And slowly, with gentle pressure, one on each side of the spinal column, you're going to walk your thumbs all the way up. And then if she likes her head rubbed, you can go up into the back of her neck just like this, and then you go back to the bottom and work your way up. Start at the base and work your way up. There you go. The top of her neck, bring both your hands up like this, and you're going to go across her shoulders with each hand. There you go, down her arms, towards the elbows, to the hands, and then out, because that brings tension away. You always want to go away from the body. This same position can be done at the hospital. If you have her on the side of the bed, okay, maybe she's dangling her legs over the side of the bed, and you know they have those tables that come around, those little brown tables, and they go higher, they adjust. Put a couple pillows on that. She can lean forward, same position. Now, you want a toilet position or you want a birth ball position, and you don't have one or she doesn't want to go in the bathroom. Here's an easy fix. Chair on a corner. Boom, same position. The pelvis is open wider, gives the baby more room to come down. Same thing can be done on the corner of the bed, sitting on the bed at home or in the hospital. Okay? Very basic things. Okay, turn around and face the camera. Hand on the back, legs open wide, sit right in the center. Okay? Now you'd want to either stand or sit behind her, just so she'll feel more comfortable. And then what you're going to do is come forward on your elbows like this, and just rock your pelvis from side to side during a contraction. Opens up the pelvis wider. Okay. And depending on what she's feeling, she may want you to rub her back, she may not. Okay. And then contraction ends, and then you sit back up. Now, as a labor continues, they get really hot, but they don't know, and she may want a cool washcloth. If she's sitting there with her eyes closed, don't just slap it on her face, okay? Tell her what you're doing. I'm going to wipe your face and put it right here, along her neck, along her back. Gives her energy for a few more contractions. So maybe she's gone a few contractions and you know she's looking a little bit warm. Just offer that to her as well, okay? Go ahead. I want to try what we did with the chair, with the pelvic tilt position.
Okay.
So what you're going to do is you're going to get on your knees, okay? And you're going to roll forward. You want to come around this way? You're going to roll forward and hug the ball. Okay? And put your head down to the side. Nice and comfortable. And then just like that, what happens is a lot of times a woman will sit still until she has a contraction. And that's when she'll start to either roll up and down, like that, or from side to side. And to me, that's really comfortable. It's a real good support system for your body. Because again, it's absorbing all her body weight, so she doesn't have to hold her body up. Now, if your partner needs a break, if they're tired and you have a birth ball, here's a fix. Okay. You can put it on a table, put it on a bed. Moms, you lean into the birth ball, all your body weight supports it, just like this. Okay, that way you're still helping your labor to progress and you're giving your partner a break. You're just going to do a little lunge from side to side. Just a little bit of a lunge. You don't have to put a lot of effort into it. Takes the pressure off her back. She's still in an upright position, and it feels really good, and that way she can continue to labor. And you just stay right there that way. If she needs you for anything, she'll feel a little bit more comfortable. Okay. How's it feel? I like it, yeah. Normally, we want the baby facing her back. This is called anterior position. Okay? When a woman is having back labor, that means she's feeling all the contractions in her back and not the front. The baby's head is sunny side up, putting pressure on that area of the body. So what happens in this position is you have these really long contractions, very intense contractions, very little break, but the problem is very little progress. So partners, the first thing you want to do is, if she's complaining about this, is pelvic tilt position that we did earlier, birth ball position, toilet, tub, shower. This next thing is one of those things that will help with back pain now or in labor. It'll really help with this position. It's called the double hip squeeze. Does anyone have back pain right now? Okay, come on up. I'll have you come up. What I want you to do is I want you to stand like this, legs just a little bit bent. You never want to lock your knees. You're going to stand behind her, okay? Now, you're going to come down on one foot. There you go. Now, this area of the back, right here, she doesn't really have much, but a lot of women have what is called a muffin top right there. So what I want you to do is I want to take your hands like this, one on one side, one on the other. Okay, don't squeeze yet. What happens in that position? We're putting pressure on this area of the pelvis. We're going to push in about 1/2 inch and lift up towards the ceiling. Don't do it yet, okay? Opens up the pelvis, takes the pressure off the lower back, and if you're in the right spot, one of two responses. Either she says nothing and she just smiles, or she's like, oh. And what you're going to do is you're going to hold it for about 20 seconds and then release pressure. 20 seconds and then release pressure. And you're going to do this, and this stands for all the partners in here. You do this until she says, okay, it feels better, you can stop now. Either now or in labor. Bring your knees up just a little bit. I don't want you bending them. There you go. Okay, so right there. Okay, so squeeze in 1/2 inch and lift up and hold it. What do you feel? Hold it. Okay. Okay. So you hold it for about 20 seconds and then release. And you just do that until she's, okay, it feels better. What I don't want you to do, I don't want you to put your hands on her hips and go, what does this feel like, okay? If you practice this at home and she's not, and her back's not hurting, she's not going to feel a huge change, okay? She'll feel a shift of pressure, but she won't feel a, unless her back is really hurting. If it hurts, you're either up too high, back too far, or just pushing too hard. Mm-hmm. If you do this maneuver and it feels good and then it starts to hurt, that tells me you're in the right spot, but you're pushing too hard. You just release the pressure a little bit. Fold one in half and put it underneath this leg here, underneath your knee. Okay. Just fold it in half. No, the way it is. Just make sure that that upper part is up. Like this, underneath her leg. And then we put one here. Okay, so what happens is relax your legs a little bit. Just relax them into the pillow. That way the pillow supports your legs. They're bent. They feel comfortable. You don't feel like you have to hold them up. Okay? And with pillows, always make sure that there's one up behind her neck. Because people usually worry about the back, but then they don't put one underneath the neck and the head's flopped back like this. So you want to make sure there's one behind the head as well. Is that comfortable? Yeah. Okay. All right. You want to give her a pillow or two underneath her head. And then when a woman's in labor, even now at home when she's trying to sleep too, it can be uncomfortable to lay this way. So again, you can ask the nurse for an extra pillow if you need one, fold it in half, put it between her knees. Just like that. And she may want an extra one, but it would feel comfortable to her to lie this way.
Is it possible I can get a nurse for one to put underneath their stomach?
Sure. If sometimes it's uncomfortable for them, their belly hangs down a little bit, it feels better to rise it up. Your head looks like it's slumping. You could, there you go, double it up. Okay, take a nap. Some other options that may be used in labor to help reduce back pain or stress would be some of the things we have on the table. I referred to the tennis balls earlier. These are also some things that you can try. This would be a back massager that you can use on the lower back or on the shoulders. This is a sphere ball. Nice and comfortable, it just kind of rolls, and you want to use enough pressure to where it doesn't tickle. Other wooden massagers, we call this Mr. Happy, or this one here. Again, gentle pressure to relieve stress but not to cause pain. Here we have a rice bag, and a rice bag is something you can make very easily at home. It's a 2-pounder bag of rice you get from your grocery store. Open it up, put it in a bowl, 3 to 4 drops of an essential oil for aromatherapy. It could be lavender. That helps to reduce stress, reduces headaches, helps her to relax, calm down. 3 to 4 drops, stir it up really well, pour it into the sock, and tie a knot. Now, what you do, you put this in your microwave, test it, 2 to 3, 3 to 4 minutes. It'll stay hot for almost 2 hours. If you bring it with you to the hospital, all nursing units have a microwave, so they can do that. It may not feel that warm on the outside, but the heat radiates. So you might want a thin towel, a kitchen towel, or get a towel from the nurse to protect your skin. It can be used on the lower back, on the shoulders, on the tummy, anywhere she needs relief. And it serves the aromatherapy part. Why would we put oil in here? Because when it heats up, it will smell like rice. And some women are very sensitive to odors. She may not like the smell, or she may want some. So we put that in there to reduce her stress and help her to relax a little bit further. If you don't have a rice bag and you need something for heat, the chucks that I showed you earlier, you get a towel from the nurse, throw it into the sink, run the hot water as hot as you can get it, roll it up in the chucks, you have an instant hot bag for her shoulders, for her neck. Okay, that will help reduce her pain and discomfort. So we always talk about relaxation being the key, because I mentioned earlier, every time you tense up, it increases your pain and slows labor down, and no one says, I want a longer labor. So the whole idea is to reduce your discomfort and help your body labor better. Now with the breathing techniques, why do you think we have a few different breathing techniques? No 2 techniques work for any 2 women. One woman may be able to get through labor using slow-paced breathing through the whole way. And then some women, as labor starts to get more intense and the contractions get closer together, some of those women, their breathing needs to change. But when it comes to breathing, several different things we can do. But first of all, the breathing is a distraction. It keeps your brain preoccupied. We keep you focused on doing something, whatever it is you're doing here, you're not concentrating on here. And by doing that, your muscles relax. And by doing that, in turn, reduces your discomfort, helps your body labor better. After a certain amount of breathing, if you allow them, endorphins can be released. And we call that the happy hormone, okay? If you allow endorphins to be released for some women, it's almost as strong as morphine on reducing your discomfort in labor. But you got to learn how to do it. Because, like I said, we have very busy lives. It's difficult to learn how to relax. And that was one of the things I told you, you're going to have to practice with your homework, okay? So breathing, relaxation is the key to all of this, okay? So we have a few different breathing techniques. I mentioned the cleansing breath earlier, and I saw some eyes kind of go up. But typically, at the beginning of each contraction and at the end, you're going to take a cleansing breath. It's a big sigh. It's just a... You're going to take one at the beginning of the contraction for 2 purposes. Number 1, if your partner is timing contractions and they see you take that cleansing breath and blow it out, they know to begin timing. Number 2, when you feel your uterus begin to contract, your job is to take that cleansing breath. And what happens is by doing that, you kind of get on top of the contraction. It doesn't get a hold of you. Okay? So you take the cleansing breath at the beginning of the contraction for those two purposes. You breathe through the whole contraction, and you end with a cleansing breath. Because during that process of your contraction, those muscle layers in the uterus come together, the baby gets less blood flow and oxygen flow. When the contraction's over, those muscles relax and they open up. You need to bring a lot of good oxygen down to your baby. So partners, if she comes to the end of the contraction and she doesn't take the cleansing breath, remind her. Say, take a cleansing breath, or you can say, take a baby breath. She knows that's for the baby. The first breathing technique is called deep abdominal breathing. It's a slow-paced breathing technique, but it's a little bit different. It's similar to yoga breathing, or if you ever sang in a choir, you kind of use your diaphragm. Okay? Instead of inhaling here, we're going to bring the oxygen down here, and that's why we call it deep abdominal. But it serves several different purposes. You have to focus on a nice deep breath. You have to focus as you inhale to letting your abdomen rise as you inhale and it falls as you exhale. When you're thinking about those things, you're not thinking about the contraction. But another plus is when you bring the oxygen down here, those muscle layers in the uterus relax a little bit more, decreases your discomfort, helps your body labor better. Okay? So watch here as I take my deep breath in. Watch what happens in the lower part of my belly. Rises as I inhale, falls as I exhale. Okay? So what you do, the contraction begins, you take the cleansing breath in, you exhale out, you just take these nice long breaths all the way down, expanding the lower abdomen before you exhale out. Nice long inhale, nice long exhale. Now some women prefer to count as they inhale, maybe in their head, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It depends on what works best for you. Okay? So, nice long inhale, nice long exhale. So let's try this. Partners, you can do it too. Moms, put your hands on the middle part of your belly. And it may take you a couple times to work it down. It's okay, you'll get it. So just take a nice deep breath in. When you feel your hands expand, slowly exhale out and keep going. Just focus on a nice deep breath. You want to feel your hands expand just a little bit. Okay, now were you able all to bring it down here? Okay, now with this breathing technique, the first few times you practice it, you'll notice yourself yawning quite a bit. And the reason is after 9 or 10 deep breaths, endorphins begin to be released, you start to calm down. But the more you practice it, the less you yawn. Because we really don't get a whole lot of oxygen in our daily lives. We're very shallow breathers. Okay, so when you start to yawn, you'll notice they're beginning to be released. Okay, that calms you down, helps you to labor better. Okay, so begin with the cleansing breath, do the slow-paced breathing all the way through. Contraction ends, you take another cleansing breath for your baby. So this is what it looks like. I keep my eyes open for this, or closed for this. Some women labor with their eyes open, some labor with their eyes closed. Okay, in your nose, out your nose, in your nose, out your mouth. It's up to you. It's what feels comfortable to you. Because a lot of women have stuffy sinus passages. And if I say you have to breathe through your nose, and the time comes and you go, what's going to happen? Okay, so what's feel natural to you at the time? Okay, so. So you see the difference between the two? Cleansing breath, inhale out. Just take the nice long deep breaths all the way down, expanding the lower abdomen before you exhale out. And you do that through the whole contraction. Contraction ends, and then another cleansing breath for your baby. Okay? This is the one that I would encourage you to begin with and use it as long as it works because it's easy, it uses the least amount of energy, but it promotes the most relaxation. Okay? So use as long as it is effective for you. Okay? Partners, what would be an indication to you that the slow-paced breathing is no longer working?
When she's still moving around, irritated, pushing, punching.
You might see it on her face that she's starting to look a little bit panicked, okay? Or she's trying to take it down, the eyes are bulging a little bit, or she just might get a little bit agitated, okay? So if you see this behavior, then you would go to the next level, and this is pattern-paced breathing. It's still easy, but it's a different focus, okay? And this one, some women begin with this one. I just encourage you to start with the other one because it allows those endorphins to really be released. But go to the next level because when the contractions becoming closer together, for some women, their breathing needs to become higher and lighter in the chest, and it makes it more comfortable for her to breathe, okay? This is the one with the hee-hees that everybody talks about, okay? But you begin with the cleansing breath. You exhale out, you take a rib breath. And the rib breath is the inhale, but it's a quick breath, like someone came up from behind you and scared you. It's like, and you kind of hold it. And then you're going to make the noise 3 times. It's just a noise, it's not an exhale, okay? Then you exhale on the, you take the breath again. And you do that the length of the contraction. Contraction ends. You take another cleansing breath. Okay? Now, if you practice this technique and you feel like you're getting lightheaded, it usually indicates you're exhaling on the he's. And if you do this, you have not much to give when the time comes to exhale. It's like taking all the oxygen out of a balloon. It's like going, you have nothing left. Okay? So remember, the rib breath is the inhale. You're holding your breath, making the noise. The outward noise is you exhale on the, okay? So I'll do it once again. We can practice it all together, okay? So contraction has begun. You take your cleansing breath in. When you're ready, blow it out. You take your rib breath and begin. One more. Take that nice deep cleansing breath. Anyone get lightheaded? Okay, then you're doing it correctly. Okay. Now, partners, as the contractions start getting closer together, she may think if I breathe faster, it'll go away faster. It doesn't work that way. She has to be paced. So the next thing you know, she's and she's starting to, she's starting to get lightheaded. She's on her way to hyperventilating. So you have to slow her down. Breathe with me. Now, maybe she's lying in bed or she's sitting in a chair and she's been doing that slow-paced breathing. Her eyes are closed, but you notice she's starting to struggle. Then you can get right in her ear. You don't have to look at her face to face. You can get right in her ear and say, "Look, listen to me. Breathe with me." And she will follow you. Okay, so if she starts to panic a little bit, just get right there and say, "Okay, listen to me, breathe with me." And breathe along, and she will follow, and she will pick up the pace. We just want to make sure she doesn't breathe so fast she hyperventilates. There's also another way to do this, tapping, squeezing, okay? That's another way she might pick it up. All right? Okay. So we talked about the inhaling and moaning out earlier. That's, I always say, anytime she can do that, or if all else fails, partners, again, you get up in her ear, oh, and she'll start to mimic you, okay? That's another one of those things. So, got a lot of different techniques to do, to learn, to follow, to practice. And on the homework list, there's going to be plenty of things that's going to be on there that you'll have to do 2 to 3, 3 to 4 times a week. Because again, don't expect it all to kick in when you go into labor.